Yeah, I asked them to make you co-host also. Jimmy, can you share?
Got it, got it.
Yeah. Jimmy, you also can share, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I can.
Okay. Okay, sure. Yeah. I'll mute myself.
Okay, I hope my screen is visible.
Yeah.
Okay. Hello and welcome. Good morning, everyone. I hope the preparation for quiz 1 is going on well. So we are going to briefly revise weeks 1 to 4. Let's start with week 1, which primarily focuses on data loading. There are two other things in week 1, which are introduction to Escalant and a demonstration of an ML end-to-end project. So you are basically be well versed with data loading in week 1. So the end-to-end project that is there, it's just for getting an idea of the steps that take place in an ML project. So all the libraries, please note that all the libraries that are used in that ML end-to-end project, do not worry about them. But the ones which are used in weeks 2, 3, 4, those are the ones that you should be well versed with and should be knowing them in detail. So from week 1, we, other than data loading, we'll just get an idea of basic introduction to sklearn and a sequence of steps that are followed in an ML project. So that's the thing to be done from this week. So let's get started with the data loading options that are available in sklearn. So there are different sources of data that we can make use of, and there are different ways of loading them in our code. So let's go over them. There are certain toy data sets in sklearn. So these are quite lightweight data sets. They include both regression and classification data sets. They are quite lightweight, so they are good to get started. And probably as first test to your module, you might make use of them. So we call them toy data sets. So we'll see how we can load these toy data sets, which are a part of sklearn. Next, we will look at how we can fetch larger real world data sets. So they might be available online. They are not a part of sklearn. They are available online, and there are functions in sklearn which help you to fetch those data sets. So we'll look at that next. And then we'll see how we can synthetically generate data, be classification or regression or clustering data. There are libraries there are modules in sklearn which help you generate that synthetic data. There are various options, present in the form of parameters, which you can change, and accordingly you can get the data that you desire. So we'll look at those classes. And finally, we will see how we can load data from somewhere like UCI, which is an online repository of containing various ML datasets. Or in general, if there is a dataset, kept locally in your system, in your laptop, how you can load that. So we'll do that using pandas. So we'll look at all these data loading options now. The first three that we spoke about, we will be using sklearn.datasets library for them. And the last one, we'll be making use of pandas, read CSV function precisely that we will be using for the last one. So let's go over sklearn.datasets for the first three options. Loading toy datasets from sklearn. So Iris is the hello world of ML. So this is very simple data set, very balanced data set for classification. So how do we load it? From sklearn.datasets, we import load underscore iris. So how do we load toy datasets? We use load underscore dash. So that dash will change for different datasets, and we'll see what different options are available for that. So load underscore iris. Once we import it, we create an object of this load underscore iris, and this will contain your data. Now, what is the return type of this data, that is escalant.utils.bunch. Now, what is that? That is a sort of a dictionary object which has two things. Okay, I'll show. Not two, but there are some 5 things in that. They are bunched together into this object escalant.utils.bunch. So this is separate data type which you can look at. You can explore about it. So it's kind of a dictionary. Like in a dictionary, you have key and then value. Key value pairs are there. Okay, it's having the same structure. So what this iris will contain is firstly the data, which is your feature matrix. Okay, it's an ND array feature matrix. Its type will be array by default. You can change it. We'll talk about that. Second thing that it has is target, which is your target vector, which contains the labels. Okay. Next, this dictionary object contains feature names, feature underscore names. You can get the feature names using this key value pair. Then another one is target names. Okay, the unique values present in the this particular vector if it is classification. Okay, next is DESCR for describing. Okay, in pandas you have a describe function, right? So it does more or less the similar function. It provides you the details of the data set. So these are different things that you can access using this object. So mainly you extract data and target from it. So let's say this is capital X and this is your Y. So this is how we proceed. Now, if you don't want this kind of object to be returned by load underscore iris, there are different parameters that you can make use of. For example, there is return underscore xy, return underscore x underscore y, return xy. So by default, it is false. If you set that to be true, then you get 2 things which are returned by this function. Second thing is, if you want your data to be in the form of a data frame, you will give a parameter as underscore frame to be true, which is by default false. So as underscore frame. In that case, the data that you get, that is your X and Y, they both will be data frame types and not NumPy array types. Okay, so that is useful. Many times we are comfortable using data frame functions, so we generally do that. But you can go ahead with NumPy array objects as well for these 2 things, data and target. So it's up to you. All right, so that was the general syntax of loading the toy datasets. Now, next, if you want to load some other dataset, you will be just changing this thing. So the other options are load Boston. This is a regression dataset, okay, for house prices. And next we have diabetes dataset. That is also a regression dataset. I mean, it doesn't tell you whether there is diabetes or not. It tells you the amount of diabetes. So level it tells. So that's why it's a regression dataset. Next is load underscore digits, which is a well-known digits dataset. So the dataset contains the resolution of each pixel in the images, and the target is which digit that is. So that's a classification dataset. It's a multi-class dataset having digits from 0 to 9. Next is load wine dataset. Wine quality it tells. It's a multi-class classification dataset with different levels of quality of wine. Next is breast cancer, another classification dataset. And next is linear. It's a multivariate regression dataset. So these are different options that you can make use of and get started with any model that you have to build, and they're quite quick and fast to load. Next option is fetching larger real world datasets. So the syntax here would be fetch underscore something. Okay. Again, they are in Escalant dot datasets. I mean, you will import them using from Escalant dot datasets, import fetch underscore something. So California housing is one very much used. I think you would have used in week 2 also. It's a regression dataset, which is quite popularly used. If you compare the sizes of these toy datasets and these datasets, these are larger datasets. Okay, That's why they are preferred sometimes for checking some of your models which you want to check on little bigger data set. So you prefer this one. So another one is 20 news groups data set. This one has so the data is actually textual here. Sort of messages are there, and then the target is which category do they belong to. So we will be using it for naive base. I think week 6 we will be using this one. So this is another useful data set which is used for classification. Next is KDD Cup 99. So there's a conference, KDD, quite popular conference in this field of machine learning. In 1999, they had one competition and they gathered some data set, which was then kept to be fetched in this manner using this fetch underscore KDD Cup 99. It's a classification data set. So these are different data sets which are a little larger and we can make use of. Other than these, there is another very useful option, fetch underscore OpenML. Now, OpenML is another repository where there are many machine learning data sets available, and we access them using an ID. Okay. So openml.org, you can open, and there are multiple data sets available, and these are the IDs. So this is the ID, okay, which you can use in this fetch underscore OpenML. So that's another useful option. So like this MNIST data set. So when we spoke about this digits data set, there are various versions of this data set. Please note. So if you access it from KRS, for example, there'll be a different version in terms of the number of samples that there are. It might be a bigger one as compared to this toy data set present in Escalant. Similarly, it is available in OpenML as well, which you can load using this ID. So that could be another version. So please make note of the version that you're using, which source you're using to load your data. Just the name digits data set is not sufficient. So there are many data sets available here, which you can make use of in your code and play around. Okay, so that was about fetching data, and then let's see how we can generate synthetic data. For generating regression data, we have this library make underscore regression. For classification, make underscore classification, and for clustering, we have make underscore blobs. Now, there are various parameters to these the constructors of these classes, which we can make use of to accordingly obtain our data, the kind of the properties that we want in our data. We can vary these features. For example, number of samples, of course, how many samples do you want in your data? By default, they are 100. And number of features, of course, they're also 100. You can give some value that you want. Number of targets. So multi-output regression data also you can create using this make underscore classification. By default, it's 1. That's the dimension of y. I mean, how many columns in y? That's your number of targets. You can also increase it, and you get a multi-output regression in that case. Next is noise, which is by default 0. So if you do not give any value for noise, the kind of data that you will get will be, let's say it's a simple linear regression. You will get a straight line. You will get your data in a straight line, which is not desirable. You want some noise to be present in that data, because that's how your real world data is. So you increase this value, and then your data is a little scattered around and not precisely in a line, in the form of a line. So that's basically the standard deviation of the Gaussian noise that is applied to the data. Okay, this is for shuffling, which is by default true. And then coefficient is you either pass true or false, which is by default false. This is for whether you want the coefficient. So let's say it's a linear regression, y is equal to mx plus c. So m and c are the coefficients, right? So if you give it to be true, then along with your data, you also get the values of the coefficients, which is m and c, they are returned by the function make underscore regression. So by default it is false, which means you don't get it, but you have this option. Random state for reproducibility. Note that the return type of these make regression, make classification, and make blobs is by default x comma y. It's not a bunch object by default. So this is how it returns two things. First is the target, first is the feature matrix, second is the target column. Okay, x and y by default it returns. So this is an example usage. Number of samples we are specifying, the number of features. This is simple linear regression, and this is random state. So this will be in the form of a line because we have not given any noise. It's a good idea to add noise. Okay. Next is make classification. So there'll be different classes. We need to mention that. Okay, number of classes. So let's go over the parameters. Number of samples is the first thing. Number of features. Default is 10 here. Okay, here it was 100. Here the number of features by default is 10. Now there's one thing that is to be noted. This number of features is the sum of number of informative features and number of redundant features and number of repeated features. Now what are these? So number of informative features which actually have are able to predict the target. So in real world data we do have many features which are not useful. So therefore this parameter is available. Number of redundant features. So they don't convey any more information. They are just linear combinations of the existing number of informative features. So these are the features which actually help you predict the target. But you can, this is a way to introduce noise in your data. You can have some redundant features which will not be useful. Okay, this is just to achieve the same level as the real world data. Now, thing to be note is number of features should be the sum of number of features is equal to the sum of number of informative, number of redundant, and number of repeated features. Now, let's say I ask you to create a data set having, let's say, 2 features. So what you do is you mention some number of samples, and then you mention number of features to be 2. Now you will get an error in that case. Why? Because you've not given any value of number of redundant and number of informative, which is by default 2, and 2 plus 2 sums to be 4. But here you are giving a value of 2, which is less than 4 is less than 2. So if you want 2 features, you should mention number of informative to be 2. You should mention number of redundant to be 0. Okay, I hope you got the point. If not, please ask me. So repeated by default 0. So number of classes, how many classes you want in the target. By default, it will be a binary classification data. The number of clusters per class. So how you want your data to be sort of scattered. How you want your data points pertaining to a particular class to be scattered. So if so number of clusters per class means, so default there are 2 clusters. That's how your data will be scattered. 2 clusters per class. You can mention it to be 1. In that case, it will be sort of clean. Two classes and 1 cluster each. So I hope you're able to visualize. So you can just vary this value and see how your data shape changes. Okay. Next is weights. So this is for getting an imbalanced data, whereby you can give how many samples pertaining to each class should be present in your data. So by default, the data is balanced, but if you want an imbalanced data, you can pass a list here. Okay, as an array you can pass of the same length as the number of classes. Let's say there are 10 classes, you will pass 10 weight values in the list that will be passed to weights. So that way your data will be imbalanced. Next, this is also a useful parameter to bring in noise, flip underscore y. Now, what is this? So by default, your data will be sort of clean. Default is 0.01. Now, what this means is the fraction of samples whose class will be assigned randomly. If you increase this, let's say 0.1, so 10% of the samples will be assigned a random class, which means if you are using a linear decision boundary, you will get some loss. Okay, so it tells you how clean your data is. So the data points pertaining to one class will be present in the on the other side of the linear decision boundary. So this is basically to introduce noise, just like we did in case of regression. Next is random state for reproducibility. So this is one example usage. Samples, features, number of informatives. So this is what I was talking about. You are mentioning number of redundant to be 0. In that case, it's fine to have number of features to be 2. And they both are going to be informative features. The number of classes and number of clusters I mentioned to be 1. So they will be sort of clean classes. Random state. That was about classification data generation. Next is make underscore blobs for clustering data. So there'll be different clusters in the data. Again, number of samples will mention, number of features will mention. Now, to mention the number of clusters, we use centers. Okay, note that. Then next is clusters standard deviation. This helps you tell how much your data points in a given cluster should be scattered. Okay, the default value is 1. You can increase it. If when you increase it, your data will be, your data point in one cluster will be more away from each other. Okay, and if you reduce it, they will be more clustered together. So that's the standard deviation of the clusters. Shuffle, random state, return centers. Do you want the make blobs to return the centers of each cluster or not? By default, it won't return, but you can set it to be true. So it will, the centroids of each cluster, it will return. Okay. So yeah, these are the return variables x, y, and centers as before.
Excuse me, ma'am, I had a question.
Yeah.
So in the quiz, will they ask us the documentation of these functions? Like what does each argument mean?
No, not that way. You should know the usage of these. That's what is expected. But
Okay.
not the documentation as such. See, whatever has been covered in lecture by sir, let's say sir is making use of a parameter, you should know what it does. So that much is expected, but something that is not covered in the lecture for sure cannot be asked. See, it's very extensive, right? If you look at the documentation of all these modules, they are quite extensive. We do not expect you to be going in detail of all these parameters, but whatever has been covered, you should know their usage. Okay.
Yeah, I was actually thinking like if we can just go through like what a function actually does instead of going into the details of each argument and each parameter, so we can cover it like quickly, because like we have a lot of things to cover. So
I
just
see.
wanted to tell that.
See, let's say I ask you to create a classification data. Okay, you should be able to use that function, and for that you need to be able to be knowing what these parameters do. You cannot expect to be again and again looking at the application to generate data. I mean, the basic usage should be known to you. I mean, that's the general expectation from this course as well. I mean, of course, you can get code snippets here and there, but you should be able to write code yourself, at least the simple ones. When right, I hope you get the motive here. Like what?
Yeah, actually, I was just thinking like, yeah, sorry to interrupt.
No
I was just thinking like it will be very difficult to remember all of these things. And in Collab, anyways, we can see the documentation of each function using that question mark syntax. So I was thinking like if we can just go through the meaning of the functions instead of going into the details of what every argument
Yeah,
does.
I've actually not
I mean,
covered all
just
the parameters. I've only covered the main ones, which will be required for generating any data. There are more parameters which we have not covered. So, by the way, in quiz you don't have that collab, right? That's I think you're talking about OPPE.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So for quiz, yeah, we do not expect you to be knowing each and everything in documentation, but whatever has been covered in lectures should be known to you, right? The usage should be known to you.
Yeah, all right. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so that was about the synthetic data generation. Now, let's talk about how to load data from UCI. UCI has a large number of data sets for ML. So there are CSV files which are available there. For loading a CSV in your data, you can make use of read_CSV from pandas. Okay, that's a very general function and quite extensively used. You first import pandas as PD, let's say, and then you use read_CSV, and the parameter is a link. Now you can make use of this function to load the data from your let's say local system, your laptop. You give the path over here, and that's how you'll be able to load that CSV in your code. Or if you want to load from UCI, you will get a link, online link, that also you can use over here, and that's how you can load the data. So yeah, that's there. Okay, next, this was about data loading. Then you should be knowing about different steps that are used in an ML project. By now, looking at weeks 2, 3, 4, you would have gotten an idea. Of course, you look at the data set and you explore it. You do different sorts of visualization to be able to gain more insights into the data. And then you do different sorts of pre-processing on this data so that it is usable enough for building a model. And so after looking at after taking a detailed look at the data, only you will know which kind of pre-processing is required for that data. So that's an important step. Once the data is ready, you build a model, train it, and see how well it works. And after seeing that, there are different ways, let's say hyperparameter tuning you can do, so that your model uses the best parameters and performs the best it can. And finally, you present the solution, and you keep maintaining your model. These are the different basic steps involved in the process. And then introduction to Escalant is part of week 1. Very basic introduction is there as such. So Escalant, also called scikit-learn, it's built on NumPy, SciPy, and Matplotlib. Okay, and it's open source, as you know. Yeah. So different APIs available in Escalant. Escalant.datasets we went through as of now. And then in the next week, we extensively go through Escalant.preprocessing for doing different sorts of pre-processing operations. For handling missing values, there is another one, Escalant.impute. Okay, and to combine several preprocessors, we have Escalant.pipeline and Escalant.compose. Okay, for different transformations. And for doing hyperparameter tuning, doing cross-validation to get a generalized evaluation score, you do cross-validation. And for seeing how the model is learning with respect to more data, you have various classes available in Escalant.model_selection. That's the general library that has many such features. And then for building models, regression or classification models, we have Escalant.linear_models model, which has your linear regression and logistic regression and bridge and lasso. And then Escalant.neighbors for k nearest neighbor, and then Escalant.tree for decision tree, yeah, and then Escalant.ensemble for let's say bagging boosting, random forest, etc., grain boosting, SVM for support vector machine. So these are different libraries for building different models. For unsupervised learning, we have Escalant.cluster, which has various further classes for doing different sorts of cluster. And then for evaluating, we have Escalant.metrics. So these are just high-level details of Escalant. Of course, you will go in detail of all these with respect to upcoming weeks. Okay, I hope that basic introduction to data loading was clear to all. Any questions that you have at this point? All right, if there are no more questions, we can move on to week 2. Dev Jyoti?
Yeah. So thank you, Anamika. So we will start working on week 2 and week 3 now. So we'll go through some slides, okay, and the collabs that are used. So as we discussed previous live sessions also, see in quiz mostly the questions will be like you will be shown the code and you will be asked to calculate what is the output. Okay. So some codes are there and you know what are the codes. You have seen sir write the codes. You have yourself written the codes. Like there are different and very buzzwords are there, right? So there are Escalant or preprocessing, we take different buzzwords. So one hot encoder, multi-level binarizer, then another small things. Then iris data set. In week 1 we are loading. So and then imputer, simple imputer, KNN imputer, all these buzzwords will come and you will be shown one application of that, one instance of application of that. Based on that, you will be asked to calculate or to guess what is the, not guess, I mean, yeah, an educated guess. You have to calculate what is the output coming. Okay. Mostly theoretical questions are not there as this is a ML practice question, a practice paper. So again, guessing the library name is not that much required. Huh? So the library we try not to give we try not to give those kind of questions so that you have to remember the the library name and all. But it is good if you can remember also some libraries, like from where the imputer is coming, from where one hot encoder is coming. Okay. And anyway, these will be useful for using in the this thing also, the OPE also, right? So anyway, let us 1 minute. So let us start with the week 2 slides. And so week 2 slides have data pre-processing. And so data pre-processing will have different different libraries. So we have and different transformers. Okay. So we have Escalant.feature extraction, dot decomposition for PCA, then Escalant.preprocessing for data cleaning, and so on. Okay. Obviously, fit transform is very important. Fit transform, fit method learns the model parameters for a training set, and transform applies the learned transformation, right? And so that when we use the fit transform, it does the function of both fit and transform together, right? Now, after that, what did we learn? We learned about dict factorizer and feature hasher, all those techniques. So dict factorizer just makes a matrix of a transformed feature matrix, right? So we have, if you have age, a dictionary like this, age colon 4, and for height equals to 96, and then like that for 4 people, okay, age and corresponding height, so that it is making a matrix 42132 and corresponding 96, 73, etc., etc. Those things are there. Now, apart from that, we have our, let me see. Yeah.
Sir, in quiz 1, mock quiz 1, there is a question on dict factorizer where we have to find the feature names.
I think a meter that you are talking about.
Pardon?
Are you talking about that in question number 17?
Yes, sir. The cities and
Yeah.
temperature.
Question number 17. We actually are seeing whether there's a printing mistake on in underscore iter underscore. Okay, we'll inform you if there is a mistake. I will inform and update you. Okay. Yeah, sure. Apart from that, there is this data cleaning. So data cleaning, of course, we have how to handle missing values. So simple imputer and KNN imputer, as you know, are used for using these functionalities. And simple imputer, we have so one thing which you can do is so suppose a simple imputer data set like this is given to you, not a data set, a matrix is given to you. So these are the NaN values. Then what is the and if we apply this simple imputed there, then what is the output that we will be getting? Okay, so just the same thing which is done via the computer processor or the CPU, we may ask you to solve it with your by hand or something. So it will be a simple calculation, simple normal calculation, where we will be we'll just you have to just calculate the mean and put it in the feature matrix, right? Acha. So that is simple imputer. Similarly, we had KNN imputer also. So and apart from that, yeah.
So can you go back to previous slide?
Yeah.
Simple imputer.
Okay. Yeah.
Most frequent means the mode.
Most frequent means the data which is occurring for the most frequent times, sir.
Which is mode.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think so. I have to check what is the definition of mode exactly, but it is the maximum number of times the number which is coming up. Okay.
And if there are multiple,
Sorry.
if there are multiple, like the same number coming, 8 and 9, suppose, and it is both are coming in the same number of times, like 3 times both.
in that case, it should randomly choose. Although you can look at the detailed documentation and code to be
Okay.
to confirm that. But in that case, it should randomly choose out of those most occurring.
The same thing happens with KNN imputer also, right? If you have two more than number of specified neighbors with the same distance,
It will choose. It may choose arbitrarily. Okay. Okay. Let's go. So mostly simple imputer is there. Simple imputer is important, and also KNN imputer is also there. You can study. Yes, and all other things are there. So what is standard scalar? How to do a feature scaling? That is also important. So the normal simple things. So mean max scalar. So we can show you an example of max f scalar or min max scalar, and then we ask what is the output result, something like that. Okay, so you know the standard scalar formula, right? So standard scalar formula is again x dash equals to x minus mu by sigma. So what is if we apply the same code, the code of standard scalar, this code on the standard scalar, and we apply fit transform, what is the value that we are getting? Okay, which of the following options will be correct? Like that we can give you. So standard scalar, and similarly we can ask about the same thing about mean max scalar as well, right? So mean max scalar is there, x minus x mean, x max minus x mean, etc., etc. Those are there. Apart from that, same thing goes for max ab scalar also. So max ab scalar transforms the original vectors into a new feature vector, so that all are within -1 to +1. Okay. So max, so for all these three scaling techniques are important. So like, I mean, what may come is that in one paper, one set of paper, it can be mean max scalar, one set of paper, it can be max ab scalar, something like that. Okay. So learn what is the method, what is the theory of these things. Nothing more than what sir has taught should come in the exam. Okay. And I mean, from the user manual, the Escalant user manual, as Anamika was also telling, it is a very huge source, very huge resource. So we won't expect you to like know everything from the source, and I mean, whatever is taught in such course will be the comprehensive syllabus. Nothing outside should be there. Similarly, function transformer. So how do you use function transformer? There is something called log2, which does a log2 matrix, which applies logarithm on the matrix. And similarly, I think there is log1p, which uses a log base 10 with 1 plus the value. Okay. So those things you can check in the that thing you can check in the Escalant manual. So one is log2 and another is log1p, and so those are used for used with function transformer. So this syntax may be a little important. So we can ask that which of the following codes are used for applying log2 transformation. So we can say ft equals to function transformer underscore numpy underscore log2, which is actually a wrong syntax, right? Does not apply here. And then ft underscore fit underscore transform underscore x or something like that. So in that case, that will be a wrong syntax, right? So as much as you practice writing the codes, it will be quite interesting and quite it will be at hand of you, okay, to to understand the codes properly, to keep it in mind.
Sir, how to implement log 1p?
How to do log 1p?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, actually, the same way here. Just you have to put log 1p. Okay, I'll check whether I can find 1 minute. Let me see. But it is the same way. You can actually say log 1p. So we have log 1p.
So basically, 1 to the value and then apply log nature.
Yeah, add 1 and then log. Okay. Constructor function transform. Okay, where we have log 1p. Log 1p does what?
So it adds 1 to the value and then take the log.
Yeah,
base 10.
should add 1 to the value and then add log. So basically, this is the way np dot log 1p. Okay.
To the base
So
10.
log 1p is a
Natural.
yeah.
So actually, what happens? No, what happens like when we why we take that one? Because if we take that, we won't take that one. No, and fee value is exactly 0. At that time, log becomes infinity. So to avoid that issue, we use that log 1p. So it is something as you said, like log 1 plus p, something like it. So
Yeah.
once it is log 1, then it is 0. And after that, if you add any term to avoid that infinity part. So that's why we always prefer that log 1.
Yes, sir. From 0 value it will go to infinity.
Yeah, so this is the NumPy documentation, as Jayadev actually pointed out. Sorry, my mistake. I was finding it in Escalant. So you can check this one. So this is log 1p NumPy log 1p is here. Okay, so you can check it here. Okay. Apart from that, what else we have is so those are the function transformers which are required. Then we have obviously the small things are there. Polynomial transformation again is important. Polynomial transformation, you can see that for degree 2, this is a matrix given to you, and then if you apply this full thing, then how many terms will come up, or what will be the degree, how many terms will be there in, if it is degree 2, how many terms are there, and if it is degree,
there is 1 also would come, right?
I think this is just the, so you can see that is x1 to the power 0. I have to check.
I think
Sir, 1 is
X0
also
term will
there.
also come.
Sir had said that there is a correction in this slide.
There is a correction. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll
Sir,
check.
another doubt I have here, is there a sequence that is to be followed? Because this question comes up many times in graded assignments, and the sequence I think is different in all the questions. So is there any kind of sequence that we maintain?
I think one way to be is to start with the single values first. So single terms first, like x1, then x2, then x1, x1 into x2, like that. But see, sequence as such should not be there, I think. Okay.
Okay. Because there's this program which is given for polynomial transformation, and then, I mean, it's asked what is the output of that particular code.
Yeah.
And then we have to select out of multiple. So a couple of them would look similar, wherein the number of ones, twos, or threes would be the same, but the way they are arranged would be different, and we have to select one of them.
Okay, I'll. Can you just post in the discourse what is the?
Okay.
Yeah. So actually, sequence doesn't have any importance. Let's see, like it's just converting in the polynomial regression, and you get some equation, final equation like 1 plus x square plus something. So at least at the end, all the things are. I mean, the when you build your model, that is all the terms are in the addition only. So it doesn't give any personal importance, like if it is first you are taking the alpha one, beta one square term, and then you are adding beta one into beta two term. So it's okay. I mean, if
The sequence is
whatever,
not important that way.
yeah, it's not important.
Thank you.
Soumya asked, can you please share revision slides of all the weeks? So Soumya, mine is the search slides only, which is already there. As you can see, I mean, we are checking about the corrections. Notes, I think Anamika, yeah, if we share, we will inform you. Okay. Apart from that, so polynomial transformation you can check. So basically, it won't be very difficult. It will be just application of the course that is taught in the slides and in the collabs. Okay. Then similarly, we have k-beans discretizer and other things which divides a continuous variable into beans and then applies one-hot encoding or ordinal encoding. Feature encoding, and these are important. One-hot encoder and all are important. So what we do is we encode the categorical features or as a one-hot encoder array. Okay, and so as we can see, if we have 1, 2, 3, and 1, then 1 comes in the first column, then 2 is in the second spot. So obviously 2 comes in the second column, and then 3 comes in the third position. So therefore 3 is in the third column. So similar goes for label encoder also, where so it encodes target labels with values between 0 to k minus 1, where k is the number of distinct values. And so on. Ordinal encoder is there, a ordinal encoder which encodes the categorical features with values between 0 and k minus 1. And so for 1, it okay. And ordinal encoder, it can operate on multi-dimensional data. And so there is a small difference between this ordinal encoder and label encoder, whereas one can operate on multi-dimension and label encoder can work only on the one-dimensional data sets. So okay, we'll get here. And then label binarizer is there, which again converts multi-class label. For this we need to convert multi-class labels to binary labels, and label binarizer performs this work basically. So it converts multi-class labels to binary labels. As you can see, if we have 1 and 1, so it will apply just the same thing, and 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. The other portions are in the other binary levels. Okay. Yes, so add dummy feature is important. Add dummy feature, so it will augment the data set and it will add an extra column vector. So you can just check what is the, suppose you see you are given one code and you will be given one extra command that add dummy features. Okay, so and what is the result? What is the output result? So if you see that there is an extra added column, so in one of the option you can just mark that option as correct option, because that is the result of the add dummy feature. Okay.
Is there any difference between one-hot encoder and label binarizer? Both seems to be doing the same thing.
Let me go back. Let me check. One-hot encoder and one-hot encoder encodes categorical features as a one-hot numeric array and creates one binary. What is the other thing you told?
Label binarizer.
Label binarizer. Question can be extended. Okay, yeah, I mean, it looks like they are same. Anamika, any thoughts on this?
The only difference I saw implementing this was one was giving us floats. One-hot encoder was giving floats, and binarizer was giving integers.
Okay, that may be one difference. I'll just check. I also have to check. Anamika, do you know any other difference? Okay, we'll check.
So actually, the difference between one-hot encoding and label, I mean, label binary is something like when you have multiple columns. No, in that case, you can use one-hot encoder. I mean, when you have multi columns, okay, at the same time. Okay, but you can't use for label manager when you have multiple columns. I mean, you have to take one and then it is something like one versus all function, no? So it works something like that only. So let's say you have this one column and then you can use at that time label manager. But when you have multiple columns, no, at that time also you can use one hot encoder. I mean, yeah. It is something like that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Jimmy. Yeah. So apart from that, these things are there. So we have 1 minute. We have this filter-based feature selection methods. So which removes the features with low variance. So there are 2-3 feature selection methods like that. We have variance threshold, which removes all features with variance below a certain threshold. And if you have 0 variance, it will default by default it will remove a feature. Okay. So we have univariate feature selection. So in feature selection, if you go in the filter based feature selection methods, we have variance threshold and univariate feature selections. So there are univariate feature selection. It will select features on particular statistical test called univariate statistical test. Yeah. Thank you, Jaydev. Yeah. And there are 3 APIs for this feature selection. One is select k based, and which removes all but the key number of high scoring features. So if we what may come is that in one case we are just putting in one set we are putting what is k equals to say 5. Yeah. So therefore it will keep the 5 based features, right? And in one so if you give or 3 k equals to 3, so then that means 3 by highest ranking features will be selected. Comparatively, on other hand, there is select percentile, which removes all but a user specified highest scoring percentage. Okay, all but a user specified high scoring percentage. So therefore, there will be suppose percentile equals to 30, top 30%. Okay, so if that is say 3 values are there, 3 features are there. So those 3 features will be selected. So top 30% features or top 50% features will be selected. Similarly, we have generic univariate select, which is not that much used in our course, but compared to select k-based and select percentile, generic univariate select will perform the univariate feature selection with a configurable strategy. Okay. Comparatively, I would say, yeah, all are important. Focus more on select k-based and select percentile. And there are some other common univariate statistical tests also for each feature. We have select FPR, FTR, and FWE, etc. So these applications of select k-based and percentile and generic univariate select is important. Okay. In OP also you will be asked in your quiz also you will be asked that suppose how to we want to apply k equals to, so suppose here 20 based features are selected, so we want to select 20 based features. What is the code for that? So there can be questions like which of the following options are utilized for which of the following options is suitable for for coding the for selecting the 20 based features. How much percentile is required, how much percentile can be selected, that is taken by select percentile, and it will take the top 20 percentiles here, right? Similarly, generic univariate select is also there, which with mode equals to, so it has different modes for working. It has percentile, key based, FPR, FTR, as we saw. So it will select if we put key based and parameter to be 20, then again it will select on based on it will select based on the chi-square scoring function 20 based features. Okay. So again, generic univariate select, how does it work? Sir has told. Okay, this is quite, I mean, well-known thing that do not use regression feature scoring function, the classification problem. Okay. Achha, RFE is important. RFE or recursive feature elimination, this is important. RFE uses an estimator to recursively remove features. It will initially it will fit an estimator on all the features, and it will obtain a feature importance from the estimator, and it will remove the least important feature. Okay, so these are recursive feature elimination. Okay, So you use RFE or RFE-CV if we do not want to specify the desired number of features, and it performs RFE in a cross-validation loop as it is CV. So basically that means cross-validation loop to find the optimal number of features. Okay, so there we do not specify the desired number of features that we require. Okay, it performs in a cross-validation loop and finds the optimal number of features if we use RFE-CV. Fine. Then there are some other topics on select from models. It selects the desired number of important features and all. So RFE, CV, and RFE is important. Sir also has shown in the collab and in the other videos also. So go through them. We will also go through them here. Again, in sequential feature selection, forward and backward manner may not always give the same result, and it is actually expected that they may not expected that they won't give the same result, although in some cases they do. Okay. So sequential feature selection performs the feature selection by selecting or deselecting the features one by one in a greedy manner. It has two approaches. One is a forward selection, another is a backward selection. Forward selection starts with a 0 feature, which finds one feature that obtains the best CV score for an estimator. And backward selection, so forward selection again starts with a 0 feature, whereas backward selection starts with all features. So it obtains the best cross validation when trained on that feature. And whereas backward selection removes the least important features one by one, following the idea of then the remaining part that it gets the best cross validation. Okay. So it keeps removing, backward selection keeps removing the least important features one by one. And they stop, all of them stop when reach the desired number of features. Okay.
What is the difference between RFE and backward selection? Because they are both removing the least important features.
No, here we are using on feature selection, and RFE is just eliminating the features, the required features. So all of them are basically giving the same thing, that where we are just generating the we are taking the highest improving features, okay, which are the highest performing features. Those only we are calculating. So in one place it is just it's going in an elimination strategy, and here we are just doing a selection feature. Okay.
But in backward selection, it is mentioned removes least important features.
I know. So the method looks almost same. If there's a fundamental difference in the method, I'll check. But what it does is one of them is actually just keeps removing. Okay, and then whatever is remaining, that is what it produces. And backward selection does what? Now the backward selection removes, but after that, when it just keeps selecting. I mean, selecting means it also gives the same thing, the same output it should give, but it will give you the after selecting, it will give you the whatever feature is remaining. Okay. If there's a fundamental difference in the procedure, that I will check. Okay. And can you also check? I have not. This is a nice question. I'll also check. But can you just check with two programs whether the result will come similar on the same?
Okay.
Backward selection and the
there is a difference. I think recursive feature evaluation works only with those estimators that have feature-based weights, like coef underscore, wherever it is present, it will work with that, and it relies on only on relative feature importances. Whereas sequential feature selector is cross-validation based; it does not depend on importance of features.
Okay, sure. Thank you. That is important. Thanks, Jaydeep. Yeah, I'll also look into it, and but you can just you can also check, I mean, what is the output coming and all. Apart from
here, the problem is it's difficult to construct examples which actually give different results for both.
Okay.
We know that from the documentation that these are different things, but if you ask, can we create an example? Well, clearly we cannot do that with, say, toy data sets like iris or breast cancer or something like that. That has the data sets themselves are fairly straightforward, that we don't see the difference. The same two features will be important in both. But I'm sure with make regression, it should be possible to create a counter example which shows the difference.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'll also check if it is possible. I'll also post in the discourse if I can find some example. Okay. Yeah, I mean, as Jaydev said, it may be difficult to find an example, and yeah, we'll also check and get back to you. Apart from that, what else is there? So sir has taught some of these things, so you can check obviously the max scalar, one hot encoder, and the other things which we just jumped. So the column transformer and whatever else is there. Okay. PCA also you can obviously select, and so PCA is a linear dimensionality reduction technique which uses the value decomposition techniques to process to a low to project to a lower dimensional space. Okay. So PCA again, sir has taught in the collab also. Okay. So please go through the collab, and we have shown the collab codes also in the the live sessions. So it will be helpful to check the live session videos as well. And we can so what is the method it is accepting is generally. So the first principal component is in the direction of the maximum variance, and the subsequent principal components will be orthogonal to the first principal components and will gradually capture lesser and lesser variance in the data. So in week 2, the data pre-processing is there, and also one other thing which is there and not in the slides is the data visualization, right? So anyway, many of the visualization things. So there is box plot, violin plot, then there is there is the line plot and all those things. And what do they mean? We have already learned in the stats and all. Okay, so those will be also important because it may ask that suppose we are giving you a box plot, and what do you infer from there? What does the data see? Okay, something like that may come in the picture. Okay. So from that aspect, it will be important. Suppose we are giving you two lines and a line plot, and we are asking that what is the whether the first line, if it is on top of the other one, then uh, what does that mean? That whether that it means that the line which is on top is actually getting more value, more y-axis value, right? So those kind of things, small things. Then box plot. What is box plot? Then the KD, and small this small things will be useful to know. Achha, pipeline, obviously we know what does pipeline do, and how do we use pipeline. So pipeline constructs a chain of multiple transformers to execute a fixed sequence of data pre-processing and modeling, whereas feature union combines output from several transformer objects by creating a new transformer. So Escalant provides these two classes. One is pipeline and one is feature union. Both are important. Pipeline obviously will follow, you will face. So basically what will be given is that you will be given a pipeline of 2-3 known transformers, known pre-processing techniques. So one is suppose a pipeline will contain a one hot encoder and some other step, or a scaling step, and so on. Okay. So in that way, then you know how to calculate the length of the pipeline. You know how to calculate that is alien bracket, right, and so on. So that will be important here. Again, these slides are important, that you have to know what is the, so like this an estimate equals to simple imputer standard scalar will be given. Then what are the steps that you have to calculate, and that then what will be the option correct. So what is the length of the pipeline, 1 2 3 4 and so on. So here you can see it is maybe it is two steps are there, right? So those are important. Yes, and you can access individual steps. So we can ask that what is the code to write the individual accessing the individual steps. So if we want to access the PCA step, which of these following options we will be using, right? So you can say that we can say the second estimator, so not these four options, then it will be all are correct. But if you say something like this and some wrong options, so we can say pipe 1 or a pipe PCA, like that we can access the individual steps in the pipeline.
Sir, so for PCA, if it's pipe 1, for imputer it's pipe 0, and pipe 2 for regressor, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the same 4 options we can use to access those parts of
yes, sir. So the second
process.
estimator can be accessed in 4 rows.
Okay.
And so on, basically. So advantages of pipeline is not that much important. I mean, obviously you should know what are the advantages of pipeline, but we won't like ask you to list out the advantages, obviously. So you can look into these things, but so it combines multiple steps, and it enables the joint grid search, and it offers convenience and reduces code duplication. So these are I think we already know, we already understand this, because we are using this, and hence we are seeing also. Hence it will be, so you will be asked more like based on the application. So what we will show an example to you, and we'll ask what is the output, what is the result. So in the code, in the Colab, 1 minute, let me one minute. So we have data preprocessing. Again, in case anyone wants to know any, so we have shown the Colab in the live sessions. Still, if you want any particular code, or if you think it is hidden, or you want to know, just let us know. I'll try to post in discourse or something like that. Just tag us. I mean, whichever week you want, you can tag me for week 2, week 3, and we'll post the required code. Okay. Go through the search lectures. Obviously, that will be important. Sir has previously gone through all the lectures, all the collabs. Okay, so those will be helpful, I think. Then how did we do data imputation, data, and so on? These are important. A box plot. So how to calculate box plot may not be required. So, but in interpreting box plot or interpreting violin plot, those may be useful. Okay. So what that you have already gone through, I think. In this part, the data visualization. This is data visualization, right? So data visualization, also the similar things come up only. So we have line plot. Then line plot we know, right? I mean the normal line plot. Then we have the, so nothing like settings or color. All those things will not come. Okay, like what color are you giving or something like that. Normal silly questions will not come. Then there is what else? So yeah, so this box plot, what is the, so you know what is the box plot, right? So a box plot reveals the mean function, or the so it reveals the mean, minimum value, the first quartile, medium, third quartile, and maximum, right? So a box plot has an interquartile range, which is represented with a box, and then there are two whiskers, right? And the values which are outside this bar, which is vertical here, this bar, or in some cases it can be horizontal also, so that the box itself is in vertical position, vertical alignment. Then the dots which are outside, they are outliers. Okay, remember that they are outliers. Huh? And the minimum and the maximum value are these lines. Okay, these vertical lines. These are minimum and maximum values. This middle point is a median, and the end of the box, that is not minimum, that is the 25th percentile, whereas the Q3, that is the third quartile, 75th percentile, that is the top of the box. Okay, so both, all of these outside, they are outliers. So know what is a box plot, how to interpret a box plot. I'll just show these layers also. Okay, so like these things are important and all. So you can do a box plot of different data set IDs and whatever else data sets we have. You can see, right? Then what else? What else? Yes, confusion matrix. It is important that you learn the confusion matrix, and how to what are the different quadrants of confusion matrix. Those will be important, huh? So those you require for so if you know those, then it will be helpful for calculating the true, what is the true positive, what is the false positive, true negative and false negative, and based on that you can calculate what is the what is the precision, what is recall, what is F1 score. Those formula I think you should remember. Okay, those will be important either in this exam or the next exam. Those will be important. What else? 1 minute. Let's go. So week 2, this is this okay? Mostly in week 2 you check the how to use different techniques, different preprocessing code words. Okay, libraries, as you have seen, I have not discussed like which library which thing is coming from. We expect that in the OP that those things will be important because there you will be asked to write the code from the scratch, right? uh, and as I mean it is important to understand what is the what is the application of the codes. Okay, if we are giving you the one hot encoder, you should be knowing what is the you should be able to guess what is the output of the one hot encoder should be, right? Or for a normal, I mean like calculate a data set which can be calculated, that should be there. It's small codes, very small. So suppose you can you can see in the discourse also we were discussing some examples. Whatever examples we take in the live sessions, whatever examples are given in the first few examples in the Escalant manual, those are important. Okay, so if you know how to work around with those, if you understand those lines, I think that will be more than enough. Okay, no very much high level of theory is not required. Just an understanding of the codes, understanding of the keywords, what do they do, what are their applications, what is the result if we apply this thing, what can be the result, huh? So those kind of things will be helpful, I think. Okay, any other question on week 2? Okay, we'll start with week 3 and I have to give time for week 4 also. So week 2 also the same thing we will say as we have discussed for week 2. Week 3 also we will say the same thing as for week 2 we discussed. So learn the course, whatever sir has taught, follow the slides, follow sir's teaching, understand what sir is teaching, and fast few examples of the Escalant manual, and just knowing the basics of the functions. What do they do? What are the normal small things? So what does this function do? That will be wonderful. Then you have okay. Let's see. Well, and then we have different statistical scores like explain variance score and so on. Those will be important. So if you know what does explain variance score do, sir may have taught in one lecture. So learn those things, learn the small statistical quantities. Okay, those will be important here. So let me go through the collab ones. 1 minute. So let's go through search collabs mostly. We have some collabs here. We will see. So what else is there? This I think goes in the next part, class solars and so on. Let me check. So mostly this whatever sir taught, they will only come. Okay. Acha, so explain variance code as we were discussing. So let me go through it once more. The explain variance code, it computes the variance regression score, and if y cap is the estimated target output, y is the correct target output. So y is the prediction, and y hat is the prediction, and y is the obtained target output. and var is the variance. Square of variance is the square of standard deviation, right? And then the explained variance will be explained var equals to 1 minus variance of y minus y hat divided by variance of 1. As a best possible score is 1. I think the lower values can be less than 0 also. I'll just check once. Just check what is the lowest value possible for explained variance score. And here you can see some examples. So best thing will be to use to check for different values.
Lowest value will be 0. It can't be. Variance will always be positive of anything. So
no, this is 1 minus variance by variance, right?
Yeah, but y minus y will never go beyond like let's say y hat is very different from it. The ratio will still end up being positive, which is still less than 1.
See, here it can vary, like it can be even minus infinity also. So what happens in that case is, here the range will be minus infinity to 1. Okay. So ideally you want to get, you will get r square value between 0 to 1 only. But what happens is, like, is, I think in the week 4 also, like I discussed, like when you have the error, something like it is something like that, you are creating a baseline model and you are comparing with that. Okay. So what will happen in that case, like when you have negative values? So in that case, the thing will happen, no, something like you are, let's say, like you have proven a demi regression model or something, maybe.
See,
some constant, yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is, what
No,
it
no,
will
right.
be.
Yeah, you're right. It can be minus infinity. So then this is exactly like R2 score. Or is there a difference between explained variance and R2 score?
Yeah, exactly. It's same only. So basically.
No, sorry, Jimmy, proceed. It's a nice question. Very nice question, Jaydev. Yeah. Jimmy, proceed. Yeah.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, proceed, please. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was saying that, yeah, it is same only. I mean, explained variance score is something like the method behind that formula. R square.
We may get different numerical results for the same y and y hat, but it's relatively the same, right? Like,
yeah. So in that case,
higher and lower.
Yeah, in that case, you can say that what is your baseline model. So it depends on that also, no? So yeah.
So R square is basically, yeah. Sorry, someone wants to say something. Yeah.
No, go on.
Some other one. Okay, anyway. So R square is mostly used for, it's a similar thing mostly, Jaydev. So all are used for this calculating the mean model. What is the mean? What is the predicted so if you use, like, if you have, like, as we have seen in the previously in SSC, also in R square as well. So if you have a large number of data set and some of them are here, some of them, I mean, not following a mathematical formula. So to calculate the exact mathematical formula and R square also, what is the difference between the mathematical prediction and the output? That is the different. That is the thing. All things are trying to catch. And I think mostly, although the formula is different, the goal is the same. Okay. So.
But can we say that one of them is the function of the other? Using one, can I derive the other or something like that?
I have to actually check what is the formula of R square. Do you remember what is the formula of R square?
Yes. It is same only. I mean, you can
Same
say that it's something like 1 minus u by b, and the same definition you will see. Just search that, like, what is R square or coefficient of difference. Definition. Like you will get the same definition.
Yeah. So mostly it does the similar thing. So see, basically some people use one and some people use others. I think.
Actually,
the
formula is almost identical. Yeah.
Almost, it may be because the goal is same. They are trying to basically, the target is to find how much it is varying from the prediction. That's the only thing for both of the cases mostly. Okay. So again, we whoever is listening to the session and is the session, we discussed quite a lot for explained variance code. This is also important quite. Apart from that, there are small thing, max error, then mean squared error is there, mean absolute error score is there. Okay. So we can give you some of these things, right? So you know what is the mean absolute error MAE formula. So we can calculate, we can give you a small value, small data set like this, and we can ask you to calculate what is the mean absolute error. Then what is the mean square error? Okay, and we can again suppose give you the results for both MAC, RMAC, as well as the MAE value, and we will give you one code which does the same, and then you have to find the which one is the correct error output, which is to be obtained. Similarly, we can actually no, this is going in week 3, Rija. Okay. So similarly, you can calculate the, again, R square score is here. So yes, as they are telling, it's pretty much the similar thing only. So here the best possible score is 1, and it also can be negative because the model can be arbitrarily worse. A constant model predicts always predicts the expected value of y disregarding the input features. Yes, obviously it would get a R square value of 0. So constant model predicts the expected value of y disregarding the input features. Okay, so if it is a constant line, okay, that then the R square will be 0. So some things like that are there. Let's see what is there in the slides. Okay, Bhupesh sir has written, if mean of error is equals to 0, then R square is equals to explained variance square. Okay, let me, I'll just check. In linear regression is there in the week 3. So then how to build a regression, baseline regression. Okay, so this is just to do a baseline model. So obviously what we use is a dummy regressor. Again, the implementation is important. So you should know how to write a dummy regressor, or you should know how to what is the syntax mostly. So dummy REGR equals to regressor, dummy regard equals to dummy regressor of strategy. So what are the strategies possible? So mean, median, and quantile constant. These are some of the strategies. So these slides you study, this search video you study, I think that will be more than enough. Okay, I mean sufficient for the quiz. Okay, dummy regressor helps in creating a baseline for the regression, and apart from that, so how is linear regression trained? So again, this is important. So linear regression, you can instantiate an object of a linear regression estimator. So we have two options here. So one is a normal equation where we import linear regression and then apply linear regression. Another is we are using SGD regressor. Okay, SGD regressor is also important. So, and you can call the fit method on the linear once the first step is done, the instantiation is done, you can call the fit method on the linear regression object. SGD regressor is important. SGD regressor has different parameters. So it has a loss equals to what is the important. So Sushmita, dummy regressor we use just to get a baseline. Okay, so suppose we start with the generic case. Okay, suppose there is a 50 over cricket. This is one line which one score amount. Suppose 200 is the score in a 50 over cricket. 200 is the score which we can expect. Maybe it can be obviously more than that, but 200 is something which we can just as a first line of guess we can assume. Okay, so I think that's why we use dummy regressor. Okay,
so is it like one of those things like wherein for regression itself, I mean, where we need to find the weights of the weight vector, so we put in random values and then we keep optimizing it. It's something similar to that.
Yes, yes, this is that fast random thing. So it makes predictions using simple rule just as a baseline. See, first guess as a top of the hat, like
and we
that.
Keep updating it with
yes, then we start updating.
Okay.
Then that is why you see it is written, do not use it for real problems. Just the first line, quick guess, basically. Okay.
Yeah. I'll try to give an example. Like let's say in your class you are saying that the average height of people are around somewhere around 5 feet. So you have to guess a number. I mean, I asked you, don't have any model or anything like that. Okay. So I asked you to predict the height of some person, some new guy. Okay. So you will definitely say somewhere around 5 feet or 5 feet 6 inches, something like that. Okay. That's a random guess or something like you can say that mean of the all the mean height of the all the students. Okay. Or maybe you are saying that you can use median also. I mean, you see that like most of the people's height are around 6 feet. Okay. So when some new guys come, so you will say, yeah, the height would be around 6 feet. So that's these kind of guesses are called as baseline guesses, something like that. Or,
so you understand. I mean, so that is just a quick guess basically. Okay. What else is there? So again, so this may be important. So see the slides for this this code snippets. These will be important. So you have to basically we are trying to make you use these code snippets, right? So you know what is the how to write import a SGT regressor, then sorry, what is the how to shuffle training data. Okay, so we can give you so how to shuffle training data after each epoch. So you know that you have to write shuffle equals to true for shuffling the training data. And similarly, so if you how to use a learning rate, so we can give you say so suppose learning rate, what is the whether this is the exact code snippet, this is the code snippet, or this is the code snippet for shuffling the training data. This is one option, then this is another option, like that like that we are making. And again so and what is the default setting, that is not required. What is the default value, we won't ask you. So learning rate equals to anyway, so learning rate can be constant, learning rate can be inverse scaling and adaptive. You can check this about this more in the in the Escalant manual. Okay. And again, how to set a constant learning rate, basically we do a learning rate equals to constant. So implementing these codes, implementing these functions, those are the main target which we are going here in these 2 weeks. Okay. And again, if you set adaptive learning rate, it will be more adaptive. So the learning rate is kept to initial value as long as the training loss decreases, and then when the stopping criteria is reached, then the learning rate is divided, and etc. And so what is the stopping criteria and etc. Those are important. So go through the slides and see how sir has used how the in the slides it is used to set the stopping criteria, shuffling, or the how to fix the number of epochs and all. Okay. And what is the starting stopping criteria, all those things, those will be important here. And application of the code snippets and their corresponding output. Okay. Small codes, small numbers, small matrices, and their corresponding output. What can be obtained? Those will be important here. So go through the slides. I will say go through the slides. Go through sir's collab, sir's. I think the the sir's lectures, the transcripts, whatever you can find in the transcript in the collab. Mostly those things will come. Okay. And so what apart from that, what else? So R square is the coefficient of determination that we know. These again we have we have seen mean absolute error, mean squared error, all things are present there. Acha. Now this part, this is the cross validation. So cross validation performs a robust evaluation. So we have cross validation, iterators are there, k-fold, repeated k-fold, leave one out, shuffle split. So these will be a little good to know. Okay, this will be important. So how to obtain the cross validated performance measure using k-fold. Okay, so you do from Escalant.model import cross val score at first to check the score, then you apply linear regression, and then we calculate the cross val score. Okay. And so these are the two ways of writing the same thing. So you have seen, and it uses the k-fold cross-validation iterator, which divides the training data. So in each run, it uses 4-fold for training and 1 for evaluation. So see the discourse. So in discourse also, Jaydev and me, Mr. Anandaya, so all of us did some, and whoever is there, we tried to do some nice discussion. Please go through the discourse also, if possible, if you get some time. Because we tried to give different examples and we discussed the different topics. If possible, go through them also. Because that will be interesting, and you will get some clarification, the view will be clear more, I think so. Okay, apart from that, there is not, you can use the, you go through the slides like shuffle, split, leave one out, you learn these things. And yeah, I think so, I think that will be important. These things are, these diagnosis things, diagnosis steps you already know. What are the underfitting and overfitting diagnostic steps, and examine, and this will be also easy to note. Yeah, I think that is all for week 3. Please go through this again. I am requesting you to go through the slides, go through such lectures. I think it will come from there only. Okay. Any other thing? Okay, sorry. So I think Jimmy, you can go on in week 4. Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks Jaydev and Jimmy and Amrita. Sorry, Anamika.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. So yeah, in week 4, I wanted to cover a lot of things, but somehow due to the travel and all, I was not able to cover. But anyway, let's start. In revision, as DJ said, like most of the question would be something like, yeah, these are the code snippets, and like after some iteration, what you will get, or what would be the output, or it will throw some error or not, something like that. Okay. So in week 4, what we have covered here, the topics are covered like polynomial regression, hyperparameter tuning, and regularization. Okay. So most main topic I would say, it's just like week 3 content only, and here we are learning how to tune our model. Like till week 3, you learned like how to you will create your model, and in week 4 you learn how you can tune the your models to get much better score. Okay. So something like that it is. Okay. So let's start with polynomial regression. I mean, so can anyone says like when you will use the polynomial regression model? So I mean, since see the main thing for exam purpose, I would like to say that is a 2 thing here. So for exam purpose, I would say, yeah, just see the all the code snippets. I mean, yeah, just you should know like how these code snippets are working. That's it. Okay. So nothing more for quiz purpose. Okay. But for knowledge purpose, I'll ask a few questions. I mean, few things which I was not able to ask or something like that. Okay. Something like that. Okay. So yeah, can anyone say is like when you will use the polynomial regression model? I mean, you
when
have
the
data.
linear regression is not giving good results.
So how you would understand like your linear regression model is not giving good result or something like that?
Error is high, and then I will draw the curve.
Okay. So
yeah, the
you will draw the curve.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, how would be like which kind of graph you will draw? First question would be that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of graph would be that? I mean, what kind of graph you will plot?
It will be like the scatter plot with the trend line of errors.
Okay. So you are plotting a scatter plot. So for that you are plotting it in 2D, and you have limitations. I mean, in 2D you can plot you can take two axes only. I mean, one feature and one target. But in general, in what we see, I mean, in the real world, like we have many number of features. Okay. So how we will take? I mean, we can plot only one features only, no, one features and one target variable. One.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
learning curve is another option, right?
Yeah. Which one?
Learning curve, as Devapriyo has also mentioned in the chat.
Okay. Yeah, I need to see chat also. So okay, we plot learning curve for train and test error. So okay, yeah, that can be a one thing. And so what would you see? I mean, what kind of curve you will see if when you? I mean, the question is pretty simple. I mean, when you have to think about, yeah, you should consider the polynomial regression model? That is the question.
Yeah, so when we can see the trend curve is moving down, it is decreasing training loss, and the validation curve is increasing. So when it is overfitting and we need extra features to fit the model at that point of time.
So overfitting you will see when you have already fitted the linear polynomial regression model. No, I mean,
no, before fitting the polynomial regression, if we do only linear and if we could come out with some errors in the learning curve, then I think we will understand that we need more features to fine tune the model.
So okay, I'll try to summarize your point. You are saying that you trained a model and you are saying that your test error is high, but training error is low. Is it something you are saying?
Yes, yes.
So your training error will be low, your training error will be low if you are let's say if you are using that linear regression model, then your training error won't be low. No, I mean if the model you have to fit the polynomial regression model. Let's say in this example only. Okay, so these are, let's say all these points are, I mean all these points are training points. Okay, and you plotted this, you plotted the linear regression model. Okay, something like that. Okay, so still though your error is high for training points also. I mean, are you getting my point?
Yeah, but initially both of them, like the learning curve, both of them remains high and then gradually the loss decreases.
No. That will be the case when you increase the polynomial regression. I mean, the degree of regression, polynomial regression. I mean,
by changing the degree. Okay,
yeah,
right. Yes.
When you will increase the degree, then overfitting will happen, and then in that case you will see that your test error is increasing and training error is decreasing, something like that. Yeah. So
yes, right.
So one answer is that is correct. I mean, when you will do the scatter plot, but that will work only in the case of when you have just one variable, something like that. Okay. When you have less and more, let's say two variables you have, then also you can see in the 3D. Okay. So that is a one thing. And another plot can be a residual plot. Okay. In that plot also you can see that, I mean, how much your model is deviating. Okay. So if the deviation is lot from the main point, so then you, in that case also you can think like, yeah, you now you should look for polynomial. And third thing is obviously, since when you have higher number of features, then you can see the R2 score. I mean, if your R2 score is coming continuously, you are getting a low R2 score, then you should definitely think about the you should definitely try the polynomial regression model. Okay, so that too maybe because your R2 score is maybe coming lesser because of this. I mean, the your it may be the case that your points are not in linear fashion. Okay, so it may be in non-linear fashion. So you should, in that case also, like when you are seeing the low R2 score, I'm in that case also you should look for the polynomial regression model. Okay, just try and check. Okay, and as you know that how you know, like how you should check the degree. And for that, yeah, you should definitely check that when your test score is test score is increasing, test error is increasing, and yeah, training error is decreasing. Okay, training error is decreasing. In that case, where you have to stop, something like that. Okay, so yeah, these were the points. Okay, let's move to the, so let's move to the next step. So it is not working. Yeah. So how we implement polynomial regression model? Anyone just try to explain? I mean, I have written here, but yeah, it would be nice if someone speaks that. Okay.
Need to apply the polynomial transformational features using some degree.
Yeah. So basically what happens is first step, what we do is like we just transform our we do the polynomial transform on our feature matrix, then we use the normal linear regression model. I mean, okay, in that transfer feature matrix only. So as you said, yeah, so it is something like that only. So okay, so yeah, the basic code for that is, I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, for basic code for that is something like that. We create a pipeline where we put the first term as a first step as a polynomial transform. Okay, we can put any variable name, and yeah, the degree we can define something like that, or maybe we can fix that, and yeah, or later in like when we use the grid search and all, there we can change the degree, iterate the degree. Okay, to check. And in the second step, we can write the a model, like which kind of model we want to use. I mean, linear regression model or SGD regressor. Okay. So yeah, this is the default code. Okay. So I think you were not able to see that whatever I was drawing, no? Hello?
No, only we can see the slides.
Yeah, wait. Actually, I was drawing and I deleted also. Just now I thought, yeah, I was. Yeah, hello. So I think now this pen and all are visible.
Yes.
So yeah, at that time I was trying to explain through some diagram that polynomial, but yeah, somehow I missed. Okay, so yeah, this is the code. I mean, this is the basic code, and where here we can change the our regressor model. I mean, whatever the type of estimator we want to use, and yeah, this one is the degree. Okay, so yeah, you can create your model, and yeah, you can use it to train your polynomial regression model. Okay, so let's move to the next slide. I mean, this slide also. So yeah, what happens is sometimes like when you turn by default this interaction only term is false. Okay, so which means is that simply that the terms square or q for term will be also there in that your polynomial transform model. So when our model gets I mean highly complicated, no, to reduce that to complexity, or you can say that to reduce the overfitting, we sometimes we just remove that interaction only part. Okay, so that your model can properly fit. Okay, for that this term is there, interaction only. Okay, just to remove the higher order terms. Okay, so but yeah, just always see here that yeah, x1 x2 is not getting removed, only x1 square x2 square something like that is getting removed. Okay, so yeah, so next topic comes the hyperparameters. So again I will ask like how these hyperparameter terms came into the picture. I mean, from where it came and how it is working. Anyone just try to.
So they are not basically the active participants, like they are defined at the start of the model.
Yeah. So it is something like just as you said. I mean, these are the parameters which is not directly learned by the models. I mean, we put something to the models, but these are the parameters which the model doesn't learn automatically. I mean, we have to set that. For those parameters are called as hyperparameters. So yeah, as I said, like it's just the knob of your model. I mean, just you have to tune this thing. Okay, there are many parameters and hyperparameters. So these are the parameters which you have already learned, but there are many parameters here which you will learn in upcoming weeks, like max depth and neighbors and all. I mean, yeah, kernel, yeah, you have learned, but yeah, it is the topic of SBD. And yeah, max depth this you will learn in this one. I mean, decision tree and all, and neighbors you KNN, yeah, in KNN you and K means you will learn about that. Okay, so penalty CV, yeah, these things you have learned, and random state and all. Okay, so yeah, these are the hyperparameters, some of the hyperparameters I would say. Yeah, so what to tune this hyperparameter, there are various methods. So two popular method are something like grid search and randomized search CV. Okay, so what you do in grid search is like you just put all the values and you try each and every combination to tune your model. Okay, but in randomized search what you do is you give some simple number of candidates and you just try to select some random values from that table, I mean from that group, and that random value like how you will take that random value for your model, it depends on the type of distribution you have selected. Okay, so yeah, basically grid search is a time taking process and randomized search is like here it depends on you, I mean how much time you want to give, something like that. Okay, so grid search you can try. Yeah, please say.
So I have a question. Sir, I was doing the hyperparameter tuning for to determine for the SGD regressor to determine the best random state for that particular data. So my question was actually I was trying to do the random state for a particular uniformly distributed numbers, that is uniform 1 to 100.
Okay.
So, but in that particular scene, in that particular scenario, I was getting errors, error in that particular for some particular value like 9, that random state cannot be 93 point something. When I
random
some
state
random values, whenever I try to run one after the other, some different value popped up, conveying that this value does not comply with random state. So in that case, what do I need to do? Do I have to particularly select some values in the random state so that to choose for the hyperparameter?
So you can see, first thing is
Random state is not a parameter.
Yeah, it's a hyperparameter. The thing is like what the error you are getting because I mean random state can't be a non-integer number. I mean it can't be 93.2 something like that. Okay. So first thing is that, so you can set some first thing I would say, yeah, you can set some
integer values.
Yeah, some setup to just give it will, after which it will give you the integer value only. Okay. So yeah.
Ideally we use 42. So if I choose
something like that, it's just that we use some value so that all of us will get the same answer. So for that purpose, I mean here we have to create the question and we all have to get the same value. So for that purpose only we are using the
so random state is a hyperparameter, or is it isn't? Can you say that?
It is a hyperparameter, but yeah, so Ajay, are you sure? I mean, I think it is a hyperparameter.
It doesn't affect the learning, right?
Yeah, it does not affect the learning.
It doesn't affect the learning. That's true. I mean, but in the grid search, it's given, so you can change that.
You can of course do grid search on any set of parameters. Nothing is stopping you. But is it relevant to the model? Actually, is it relevant to the learning process?
So it can happen. Yeah, see, what can happen? No, I mean, in some cases, what you will see that let's say for the different random state, you will get the different score. It will happen due to that. Like in the train and test set, you are selecting the particular portion of. I mean, what I want to say is like for that particular data points which is improving your accuracy. Okay, but definitely that's, I mean, when you are these random state will help you to just to improve the training.
You said that these hyperparameters are like blobs on the or knobs on the side outside of the machine. Imagine that this is a big black box and there are buttons and knobs on the outside which you can turn, and you find, let us say that you introduce one of those knobs as the random state, right? And you find that at a particular value of random state you get the best possible parameters. But what is random state actually doing? It's only shuffling data. Can you guarantee that the same shuffled split of data is going to come for incoming data that you'll later use for predicting in the model?
Definitely. One point is the one point here is that's for sure. Like it can improve your training score only. It won't improve training score and evaluation score, but it can't change your test score. That's for sure. I mean,
choosing different values of random state gives some different values for R2 score, and
for that you can just set shuffle equal to. That should be good.
See, first thing is that I'm also just trying to Google and all. So first thing is that random state is a hyperparameter. Okay, I also need to check. I would also like to check on this one. But the thing is, like as much I knew, like it was hyperparameter, and the point I'm getting your point, Ajay. Like obviously it won't increase your this score. I mean, your test score.
So
training score and evaluation score can be changed.
I get your point, but whatever parameters we use to initialize a particular estimator in scikit-learn doesn't necessarily mean that all of them are hyperparameters. Like if I import logistic regression and while instantiating logistic regression in the brackets, whatever I'm passing, that's not necessary that everything is a hyperparameter.
Which one? Just can you give some example? I mean, what you are saying?
So whenever you instantiate an estimator in scikit-learn,
okay,
whatever parameters you choose while you're instantiating, it is not necessarily a hyperparameter. It's a parameter for that object, that class, that particular section of running the model. So hyperparameter is something that is specific to the model, not to the data. So random state affects only the data, not the model. One better example of seeing that is looking at the attributes of a fitted model.
Attributes?
So once the model is trained,
okay,
could you go to any scikit-learn estimators documentation?
Yeah, we can go. I mean,
SGD regressor or classifier is fine. Anything.
okay, just let me stop there. Actually, there are, I mean, for in the hyperparametrics also, I will tell you that feature selection part. Okay, so that can be also usually all the proof says that yeah, it can be hyperparameter, but it's not a hyperparameter. So there are two terms like where still even I am not in that feature selection part. I would say like even I am not satisfied like it's why it's not hyperparameter, but yeah, there are certain features. There are certain rules. Yeah, which say that yeah, these are not hyperparameters or these are hyperparameters. Okay, so okay, let me see this thing. So yeah, it would be a healthy discussion only. So okay. Sorry. Yeah. SGD regressor, let's say.
All right. So let's assume, Jimmy, that you and me are working on the same regression problem. We have the same training data. We have to solve the same problem. Now, suppose you do your cross-validation, whatever it is. I don't know what splits you have used. I don't know what is your percentage. I don't know any of your CV part. But you have done your grid search and you have come up with a best set of hyperparameters, correct?
Yeah, that's true.
And you will say that, okay, I know the hyperparameters for SGD regressor using which you can go ahead and deploy this model.
Yeah.
How will you communicate that?
So
you will say that alpha is a squared error.
Yeah.
Keep penalty as alpha. Keep alpha as this specific value. Keep elastic net L1 ratio something. Fit intercept should be false. Blah blah blah. All of these things you will say, right?
Yeah.
So basically, you are telling me the exact specification or the set of hyperparameters that will help me reproduce the model at a test site, right? Will you tell me the random state also? And if you tell me the random state, will it really help me?
I exactly got your point. That is what I'm saying. That yes, see, by changing the random state, you can definitely increase your train. You can definitely change your train score and evaluation score. But yeah, you can't change the test score. That is the fact. Okay. But whether all the algorithms and all, I mean, everyone is considering it is a hyperparameter or not, that is the case here. Okay. And since it is mentioned here, so and we can change that value. I mean, we can iterate that value, whatever the formula, whatever the definition of hyperparameters is. Okay. So we have to go through that also. And according to that, as much as I am seeing that, so this is something like as we said about the definition of hyperparameters, which is saying that these are the parameters that are not directly run within estimators. Okay, we have to set that value. It is something like that. Okay, it is the definition which is saying. But again, I'm also saying that yeah. So I'm not directly so I think yeah, Rupesh is sharing a link where it is saying that random state is impacting the RMSE value. So it may happen. I mean, as you are saying, no, obviously I'm getting your point, and I will also go through these things. But yeah, as I said earlier, also, I mean, there are a few points where we have to decide. I mean, I mean, as I talked about the feature selection part. Okay, so that is not considered in linear regression. I mean, that is not considered in linear regression as a hyperparameter, but still, I mean, we are iterating that. Okay, but still we are not considering those as hyperparameters. And here also the same, your logic is also correct. I would say that this random state is not changing our final test score. And here also, like since Bhupesh is saying that yeah, it is impacting the RMSE value, so I'm not sure. But yeah, as much as I know that yeah, it is considered as a hyperparameter. That is, and how it is getting considered, yeah, that's a different case. I mean, it is not increasing your model score. I mean, the final test score. But since Bhupesh has shared the link, I'll also go through that. Different MSL for different random.
We are communicating. We have to communicate the random state also.
Yeah, one thing is for sure. I mean, see, the definition is very clear cut. I mean, hyperparameters are parameters that are not directly run within estimators. So your model is not giving you the random state value. Okay.
Even if you give the random state to someone, look at the docs of SGD regressor. Random state is used for shuffling the data when training.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is what I'm saying, that your point is also valid. I mean, random state is just random state will change your training and evaluation score. It won't change your test score. It can't affect your test score. That is also true. But
okay, let's bring it
but
down
one
to
thing, no,
a simple binary question.
I can give you example. I mean, right now, just only it is striking in my mind. I mean, random state can change your final model also. I can show you just one data. Okay, let's try. I'll just try to do that. Let's see where we go. I mean, yeah, it's an interesting discussion. Let's see. So yeah, is it visible that blank page? Okay, so let's say like we have 3 points. Okay, I mean that blank screen.
Yes, sir. HDD regressor scikit-learn page.
Okay. What about now? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Let's try to just build that, and yeah, let's see how it is. Okay, and F1 it is. This is F1, F2, and this is our target. Okay. So let's say R1 and this is 2. This is giving us a 3. Okay, just it will give you this. Okay, and just for 10 and 9, it is giving something as 19. So and other score is something 2 and 1. It is giving us 3, and 3 or 2 something giving us a 5, and 2 is 3 something giving us a 5. So let's say when we took that random set, let's take case. In the first case, I will take these 3 as these 3 as a, I would say, yeah, these 3 as a training set. Okay, in that case, what we'll do is just 1 second. I'll just sorry, someone was at the door. Okay. So screen is still visible, no? Okay, not visible. Yeah, so the point is something like what I want to convey is here. Let's say we take the first 3 points. Okay, in that case, what is happening is it is giving the feature 1 is based on due to these things, it is giving feature 1 as a weightage of 0.8. Okay, and feature 2 it is giving weightage as a 0.2. I am not able to make this as a like the feature value something like that, but yeah, let's assume that due to these 3 points, yeah, you got you give the weightage something like that. But when this point is not taken, I mean this 10 and 9 is not taken, so like a first, third, and fourth is taken. Okay, so in that case, the weightage will be something different. I mean the weightage for feature 1 would be something lesser value, I would say, like let's say 0.4 F1 plus 0.6 F2, something like this. Your model is, so it is changing your model, no?
Yeah, but like this is because you have a small data set. Like given a large enough data set, this much change should not happen any random
Even for the small
slice of
data
the
set,
data you take.
right? We are not stopping here. We are taking another split and doing it again, then another split and doing it again.
See, the thing is, as you said, that this won't happen for larger data set, but see, let's say, as you said, like once, whenever the your data size is increasing, obviously this problem will reduce. But let's say what about that? Let's say you have 5,000 data points, okay, and just something like that anomaly data set. I mean, just spam detection and all, or something like that, or maybe there are some particular pattern. What I want to convey here is there are some patterns, okay, which is available in only like in 5,000 data, which is available only in 100 data points. Okay, that particular. and somehow you are not able to these 100 points are like, there can be a case for that purpose only we have cross validation and shuffling and all. Okay, so here
max iter
what,
is there for that only, no? Because in the next epoch you will have a completely different shuffled set.
yeah, max iter is and all is in your this one. I mean, you have max iteration and all is in your SDT regression, but what about normal regression model? I mean, normal linear regression model, normal linear regression model. So see,
Parameter.
what I want to convey here is the point is that yeah, there can be the case where the by changing the random state value we can change our model. That can change our model. Obviously, that when the higher number of data points you would have, no, then obviously your model won't change a lot. So that's
Yeah,
true.
linear regression doesn't have a random state parameter at all.
Yeah, linear regression also doesn't have a random state parameter at all.
because
Any
it
estimator
uses
that is
normal.
actually doing
But
the shuffling only will have the random state parameter.
but but in linear regression, when you are doing trend test split, no, at that time this can put its role. I mean,
Exactly. So it
yeah,
is when you do train test split when that matters. To the linear
yeah,
regression itself, it doesn't matter. It's not a
yeah,
hyperparameter of the model. That's my point.
exactly, exactly. So I think, yeah, more or less now
Linear
we are at.
regression, for linear regression, hyperparameters are fit, intercept, normalize. That's it.
For
And C
for
at best.
for linear regression, exactly. Actually, it is a very good Viva question or maybe an interview question. In linear regression, in a normal linear regression model, we don't have any hyperparameters.
We don't have any hyperparameters.
Yeah, it's a very famous question, I would say. Yeah,
So
thanks
anyway,
for
I
the
think to
discussion.
fix, well, there are two things again, like the fact that random state is not a hyperparameter versus hyperparameter aside. It's quite possible that when you construct a grid, it is possible to reach one particular combination for which the model fails.
Yeah.
For that, there is an option in grid search CV. You can tell grid search CV that whenever you reach that particular
Skip that.
combination which is not compatible, just put it
Skip
zero.
that.
The score is
Yeah, skip that. I mean, yeah, skip that combination. Yeah, we have that.
And every parameter has its own scale. Like random state, if you want to do it uniformly, it has to be a uniform set of integers, not
exactly
actually uniform real numbers. Similarly, if, for example, fit intercept can only be Bernoulli, true or false, nothing else. So the space and the distribution of that particular parameter also has to be kept in mind before we generate the grid.
Yeah. And for the normal purpose, I would say, yeah, in the class example and all purpose, the whatever the random state they won't give you to tune this random state value. They will give you the random state value, some constant value, just to get identical answers for that purpose only, nothing else. Okay. And yeah, so yeah, let's talk about the steps involved in a hyperparameter design. So what we do here is first we divide the training data into training set, validation set, and test set. Then in the second step, what we do for each combination of hyperparameter values, our model learns. Okay, and with the use of that training data set. Okay, and then our model just evaluate its performance based on that best evaluation score, and that what evaluation matrix it will use, it depends on you. I mean, you can set that, and if you don't set that, then there are some default scoring evaluation matrix in that estimator. Okay, it will use that one. So I think, yeah, there are many discussion happened on this one on discourse here. So the step 4 would be retrain the model and get the best hyperparameter setting. And when you are combining the training and validation set, okay, then in the last step, just evaluate your model performance on the test set. Okay, so let's say this is a simple model. I mean, yeah, where we are just trying to get the best degree of our model. Okay, so what we are using here is we are creating a in the first line of itself. I mean, just we are setting the different polynomial degree, and in the second line, one more question. I mean, here what will happen? I mean, when you are putting the polynomial degree and you are using this one, I mean, randomize search. So again, when you at the point where you will get the decimal values, that you have to ignore. Okay. So yeah, let's. I think all of you know that. So yeah, here we are simply just setting that grid. I'm just trying to show that the format of the code snippet. Okay, just nothing else. So I mean, yeah, you created the pipeline where you kept the polynomial regressor, polynomial features, and yeah, STD regressor. And in the polynomial features, you can set that also the I would say the degree value, since here you have to iterate through all the degree values. So yeah, you are not setting that, and you are keeping it for the, you can put it as a parameter grade. Okay. So yeah, this is the second thing. And the third topic which was covered in week 4 was regularization. So what is regularization? Why it is used? Someone please say. Okay, Bhupesh, yeah. Thanks. Okay, yeah. Bhupesh, also you also attend regularly. I see you. I'm from MLF only. I've seen you. Yeah. Someone say, yeah, regulation in machine learning. And what is this one, and why we use that? Hello. Anyone? I mean, any cases or anything. Just try to, and I would encourage you to speak, because when you speak, no, I mean that you will retain for longer time, and yeah, and then only the discussion will happen. I mean,
using regularization, we try to decrease the loss using the regularization term.
so yeah, sorry, please can you speak clearly? I mean, anything, just speak. No, I mean just start the discussion. That is what I want.
So using the regulation term, we reduce the loss term in the polynomial function, so that the loss is reduced using the regulation.
Okay, so yeah, it's the penalty, it's the okay. So yeah, okay, I'll speak about something. So regulation is something like that. When your model, you started getting that your model, you have made the model, and model is too complex. Again, the case of overfitting. Okay, so in that case, whenever you are seeing that overfitting case, no, then regularization comes into the picture. Then what regularization is doing is it's just simplifying your model. That's it. So regularization is used to simplify your model. To do that, how it does, that's a different thing. And yeah, there only comes like L1 regularization or L2 regularization. It just regularizes your the model. I mean, just tries to simplify that. When in those cases, so just see the difference. I mean, polynomials come to just making the complex model. Okay, and here regularization is there just to decrease the complexity of model. So here the one thing also comes into the picture, that bias variance trade-off. Have you heard about that? I mean, I think till now, I think I haven't seen that has covered that. Bias variance trade-off. Have you read about that? Anyone? So it is, I would say, it is all about that underfitting and overfitting. I would definitely recommend you to go through that topic. Okay, you search on the Google, you will get many articles. So yeah, these are the also favorite topics. I mean, interview you can definitely expect this type of question. I mean, what is bias variance trade-off and how it works, and yeah, so it is something like that only. I mean, when you increase the, so I'll just try to cover that in brief. I mean, what happens is like in your model, there are two types of errors. One is irreducible errors and one is reducible errors. So you can't irreducible errors, as the name says, that you can't reduce that. Okay, so that is the different thing. We won't try to touch that. Okay, but there are reducible errors. So what happens here is, though there are two parts. I mean, there are two knobs. The one is a bias and other is a variance. So when your bias will be high, no, so then your model will be like when your model will be underfitting. Okay, so in that case, obviously your training score will decrease and also test score will decrease. And when you will increase the variance, no, in that case your training is training accuracy will increase, but yeah, test score will decrease. I mean, or you can say that training error will decrease and test error will increase. So something like that. High bias is pushing your model towards the underfitting, and high variance is pushing your model towards the overfitting. So you have to maintain these 2 points, so that you can get something like this one. Is it visible? I mean, whatever I'm drawing. Hello.
No, still the PPT only is there.
Okay. What about now?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it is something like this, let's say. So you can think like a here in this line, error is increasing, okay? It is something like this, error is increasing. So here you have high bias. Here you have high variance. Okay. So you have to make it is the total error, and the total error is something, I mean, total error is something like, let's say some constant K plus bias plus variance. So it is a irreducible error. So you can't change this one. Okay. But you have to minimize the total error. So what you will do, you can do that. One thing is like you can reduce the bias and or you can reduce the variance. But what will happen is like when you try to reduce this one, no, when you will try to reduce the bias, no, it's not a, I mean, I think it's not a complete error. I will just, yeah. So when you will try to push it your model something here, let's say your model is somewhere here around here. Okay. So you have to just optimize this bias plus variance value. Okay. So what happens is like when you will push your model towards this side, no, then the bias will increase, but and variance will decrease. Okay. In this side, high bias, low variance. And here your low bias. But this is side somewhere around under fitting. You will get a good pictures. I mean, when you will search. Okay. But yes, a picture will be something like that. And this is something like overfitting. Okay. So you have to optimize, you have to take your error somewhere around this portion so that your model is not underfitting or not overfitting. Okay. So yeah, in that case, your model should have the optimum bias value and optimum variance value. So it is something like so that's why we call as a bias variance trade-off. I mean, you have to get a optimum value for both. And the why it is a trade-off, because like when your bias is increasing, variance will decrease, and when your variance is increasing, bias will decrease, something like that. Okay. So yeah, these things you can expect not in the quiz, but yeah, obviously whoever will appear for the interviews and all. Okay. So these are the famous topics, I mean, from linear regression. So yeah, that was all about the bias and variance. So yeah, regulation, it is one of the most common technique to reduce the error by fitting the function appropriately. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, to method to perform the regulation, there can be two method. I mean, first case you can, I think first you have to think like there were different methods. I mean, first you have to fix the alpha value, and then yeah, in the later term you can use the grid search also to change that, iterate that alpha value also. So first let's discuss about that when your alpha value is fixed. Okay. In that case, you can either use ridge or lasso and set the alpha value. And the second case, what you can do is like you can set the SD regressor, and in that SD regression set alpha value and set penalty as L1 or L2. Both will give the same results. You just have to learn the format of the code, nothing else. Okay. So in the method one, when you have lasso and ridge regressor, just set that alpha model as a ridge and yeah, set the alpha value. And in SD regressor, you have to mention the alpha value and also penalty. There can be some questions like, I mean, just see in quiz also you can expect some questions like something like, let's say all the codes are written and something like it is not mentioned as a penalty parameter is not mentioned in the model. Okay. And then they have asked like what would be the output. So yeah, it will throw the error, something like that. You have to know, or I don't know. I mean, there I also have to check that whether if we don't mention the penalties, then whether it sets some default values or not. I think there was last time there was a question something related to this. I'm not able to recollect that. So Shreya was saying something. Yeah, in that model, I think in upcoming weeks when we don't set that penalty, no, in one of the model estimators, when we don't set penalty, it sets a it takes a default value. Oh yeah, yeah. It was about this one. I mean, yeah, elastic net. When we don't set that ratio, no, L1 or L2 ratio, in one of the, I think in SGT it's set by default, it's set as a 0.5, but there were some different estimators where it doesn't set by default values. So yeah, in that case, it throws the error. Okay. So yeah, these things you have to, yeah, learn. And yeah, you can expect these questions. Because it's pretty obvious, no? I mean, when you haven't set the penalty values, then your model, how SGD regressor model will think like which estimator to use, something like that. Okay. So yeah, second case can be something like when your alpha value is not fixed. Here also you have two methods. I mean, you can use the CV lasso CB. I mean, built-in cross validation technique, or yeah, you can use the proper cross validation with RIS lasso or SGD regressor. Okay. For that, this is a sample code. I mean, yeah, here you have polynomial features, you have RIS. Here only you can change that SGD regressor and all. And yeah, you can use it ridge regression. Okay. And similarly, lasso regression is also there. Here you can use that lasso regression. And yeah, that's all. I mean, yeah, these are the things. And SGD racer, and for to use the SGD racer, you can set here as the SGD racer and penalty as L1 or L2, something based on the region lasso. Okay, so these were the topics which was supposed to be get covered in the week 4. So in this it's a summary of week 4. I mean, yeah, you learned about like how you can implement different regression model like a standard linear regression, polynomial regression, how you can use the regression, and yeah, how you will use the hyperparameter tuning via grid search and randomized search. Okay, so yeah, these were the topics which was supposed to get covered in the week 4. That's all. Any questions or anything? Is anything specific you want to ask? Please feel free to.
Sir, I have a question, sir. The dot score method which we use to determine the score of any particular model gives the score with which kind of score? R2 score?
Yeah, it completely depends on the which kind of score. Have you said that any scoring method in that grid search or in that estimator or not? Or if you haven't said that, then it depends on the which kind of estimator you have used. By default, I've seen, yeah, in SGD regressor and all, they have used the R2 score only as a by default scoring method. So in
so if I don't set scoring is equals to like if I set negative absolute error, negative mean absolute error, so
yeah,
then it will then the dot score will give me the absolute mean absolute error
yeah,
score. Okay.
yeah.
Otherwise, by default it will give R2 score.
Yeah, by default it depends on that which model you have used, which estimator you have used. If you have used the SGD regressor, then yeah, it will give you the R2 score.
For linear regressor, it will dot score.
Yeah. For I think linear regression also it will give the R2 score only. So yeah, mostly in the regression part it gives
For
the
all
R2
regressions,
score.
it is R2 score. For all classifications, it is accuracy.
Accuracy. Yeah, for classification, it is accuracy. So yeah, I have seen for I made the general term just because I've seen that linear regression and SGD regression. So yeah, it gives the R2 score. And yeah, as Jaidev said, yeah, for SGD classifier and all, it gives the accuracy value.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Anything else? Actually, in the week there are a few topics I wanted to cover. I didn't get the video time and all. I mean, the basic assumptions. I wanted to discuss the assumption part. I mean, and also like how different evaluation metrics comes and like what is the. Still, I would just suggest these things. Just read about that. Okay. So just read about that. Like that would be interesting. Like how different evaluations of matrices are there and like what's the basic problem in that matrices and why different evaluation metrics came. I mean, how developed? I mean, when you had R2 score, like when you had mean absolute error, then mean square error, then you got the mean absolute percentile error, and then you got R2 score, then adjusted R2 score. So these things are there. I mean, in the last session, in the last term, I had taken one session on this, but yeah, this time we don't got this time. But yeah, still just go through these things. I mean, these are the important topics. You should know about that, and then you go through that linear regression assumption. Then you should read about bias variance trade-off, and yeah, these things were there. Okay, not for the exam purpose. I mean, don't expect these things in exam, but yeah, if you are comfortable with these topics, no, then yeah, you are ready for interview and all for linear regression part. And yeah, definitely linear regression. I mean, loss function. Yeah. Okay, then all the best for the test quiz. I mean, yeah, for MLP quiz is easy. OP is bit. OP is also easy for those who have written the code from himself. Okay. Otherwise, yeah, people get stuck. and rest all looks okay. Yeah, anything, if anyone wants to speak, then speak. Otherwise, yeah, we'll call it a day. Okay, then bye all. All the best for the test.
Sure.
Thank you, Aisha. Thank you. I mean, thanks, Jadev. Special thanks, yeah, for initiating such discussion and all.